to our International Women's Day episode. Is it an episode or is it a podcast?
It is an episode because we're running a show, Maha. This is an International Women's Day special show.
A special
Um,
show, a special show. What a
yes,
what a wonderful thing to be doing. But remember, we talked about this thing. Is like, do we really want to be part of the all of the things that come at people on an International Women's Day? Right? We thought about it. Like, should we
we
do this
thought
or
about
not?
it. We had a quick chat about it, and then I think we kind of agreed it's not about trying to put a content out there to be part of the crowd or what's cool for that day or week. It's more about what do we stand for, and are we being consistent in our commitment to show up? Because and we'll probably talk about this, but what has got us here? Why are we doing this? It's the why, right? So I guess with that, I think that's a good sort of thing. And for this special episode of the Maha and Barsha show, we've done an intro video, Maha, you and I, and we were thinking, okay, well, here's a special occasion. There's two female leaders here. Who could be the perfect guest for us? Is there a perfect guest for us? And with the theme of International
Yes,
Women.
or collaborator. Because at this point, I'd say collaborator.
Collaborating, yeah, that's right. Oh, we're partners, right?
Yeah.
And the theme of the International Women's Day this year is inspire inclusion, and the what our focus has been is to create awareness of the different sort of available opportunities in the field of IT technology, cybersecurity, such as sales, pre-sales, marketing, right? And we've already talked about what's possible a little bit, and then what we decided, let's start at home, right? So we've got you and me, Maha, are the face of the Maha Barsha show, but hey, we've got a fantastic partner with us who is behind creating all of what goes up and what people see. So let's introduce our guest for today in this special episode, Ginny. Ginny Ho, say hello.
Thank you. So I am the person behind your videos, and I'm very honored to have you, you know, invite me in here because usually I am brainstorming with you guys, and for you to be like, "Hey, you should come on." Thank you so much.
You don't have to. You make us look good, and for that we have you to thank. It's pretty amazing. But Ginny, there's always a story behind everything. And although we're good storytellers in our jobs, I think it'll be kind of interesting to hear how we all came together. Like there were three cars traveling on this highway, and they all like merged into one highway.
Yeah.
So
Where did this all start? It started with Barsha and I. Um, right, I think it was like COVID, and we I was introduced to Barsha to join our influencer um, team to create content. And Barsha said the magic word to me, which was to talk about women in tech and just providing a platform to showcase women. And I was like, you know what, I'm passionate about that too. Let's figure something out. And we yeah, that was 3 years ago already, Barsha. And I think that really opened up the conversation in terms of it's not just about focusing on the past of what females have done to get to the place that they are now. It was really showcasing what's available, what opportunities there are. And along the way, Barsha told me she has a wonderful guest that she wanted to include into All About Data. And then along came Maha. We did a great episode on All About Data. And usually what happens is, okay, we've done the episode, and we move on. But Barsha pinged me and said, Maha messaged me, and we want to do more. And this is where we are.
this time with
I mean,
better lighting.
Yeah, this time with better lighting, better camera, better everything, right? Trio, the best trio.
Mhm.
Yeah. But if I can add something to that, right? The whole premise of all about data, even the conversation of Ginny and I to create that was, it's not going to be another female in IT. I mean, the platform is was meant to elevate what female leaders are doing, so that it's walk the talk, not just talk. Because there's a lot of initiatives where there's like, oh, what can we do to empower you, female in tech? Like, what do you need from us, right? And I think different parts of the world, different contexts, that's also needed. But where we went with all of our data was, hey, let's create a platform and invite industry leaders who are both men and women, and they're doing fantastic, which means the platform shows an equal sort of, has an equal sort of representation, which means it's not about just women in tech anymore. It's about elevating that conversation. We're seeing different leaders doing amazing things who can be men or women, right? Or of their choice of identity, right? So that is where we started, and then the rest is history with all of that data, you know.
Well, yeah, there it's still going on, but
Yeah,
I
it's still
mean,
going on.
it's
It's
still going
amazing.
on, yeah.
Yeah.
With a new host, but um, Maha, why don't you talk about how you decide to reach out to Barsha about doing a bit more after All About Data?
So after all about data, I look back and I thought, oh, Maha, you could use a better camera or you could have some better lighting. That was funny, but it was still interesting to look back. And I said, well, that's my first podcast, a live podcast. And then I got a lot of reach outs. A lot of people wanted to talk, and I've always been mentoring a lot, a lot of folks. And then there's one common theme that always showed up. Same set of questions always showed up. How can I get more visible? How
Mm.
do how do I get more of my voice be heard? How do I make my presence be felt? It was a constant theme. Whatever role the person was in, it didn't matter. It just was, how can I become more relevant in conversations? And it was a common theme. It doesn't matter who was part of my mentoring conversation. Was an individual contributor who's just starting their career, or who's well established in a career, a senior leader within an organization. It didn't matter who was the person on the other end. It was the same set of questions. It just made me think that there is an opportunity to help build some sort of a structure around these things that we need to make people aware of, especially those that are starting early stage careers or that are switching careers. So, and I thought, well, there's something here that I could do to help in a more one to many format than this one to one format that I have, something to scale. And then I thought about it and I said, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. I'm good at having one on one conversations. I just don't know how to do this at scale or at a larger audience. And I didn't know, I've never put myself out there. So it's like the two things I needed. I needed someone who was put themselves out there and that was very good at having one to many conversations. And the first person I thought of was Barsha. And I said, I should just reach out to Barsha and see what she thinks about this idea. And I texted her. She said, let's do it. I said, wait, I haven't even thought about it fully. Well, it's not formed idea. She's like, let's do it, Mahan. It'll all figure itself out. And here we are,
Yes,
right?
we've had this experience. Ginny and I did the exact same thing. So I think I was like, this is a brilliant idea. And the next thing I did was, of course, reach out to Ginny, right? Ginny, here's something that I thought fantastic. What do you think? She's like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. And I know at that time we were still hadn't realized what is it that, and we still will evolve
Yeah.
because we're still early stage. We will evolve to what it should be. But I think we have something really good and important to share. And if someone could benefit from it, even if one person can benefit from it, I think it's really worth sharing. And based on the feedback that Marsha, you have received, that I've received, there are people that want to hear a little bit more about how to make their career journey possible. What are the things they need to be prepared for as they make a career journey? What are roles that are out there that could
Yeah.
benefit them as they build their careers? I think there is something here that we could offer to our
Absolutely.
audience.
Like the cause that we are working on, all three of us, is a fantastic cause, and we're getting a lot of feedback
Yeah,
on that. But just the fact that we are all three of us from very different parts of the world with very different background experiences coming together with this cause, also sends a message, right? Also is very encouraging for other people to look at this and go, wow, how did they make it happen? Like, what are the chances of three of us coming together to do this? So if few people, even if one person looks at it and goes, if that's possible, I can make things happen too. And I think that's the foundation of it. The cause is the cause, but just showing up has its own power, right?
Yeah. That's why this topic of the International Women's Day, that I'm so glad, Ginny, that you insisted, like, no, let's do this. Let's do it because it's important to say something on this day as part of this celebration of inspiring inclusion. Just think about it. Like, the three of us brought very three different perspectives to the conversation. And think also about Abby and her creativity. Like, you gave her free reign to decide, and she then built something, collaborated, but really put something together. Like, creating that package took four different people
Yeah.
with very different perspectives, but coming at it, and then came together as a really beautiful package. I think it happens at work, in our homes, in our friendships. No two people look alike. No two people bring the same set of skills to the table. No two team members are alike. If everybody's alike, it'd be very boring.
Yeah.
Just how amazing it is be to inspire inclusion because it's a good thing, as opposed to
Yes.
because I'm being forced to do it as a part of my metric.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, totally. I think, when I saw the theme for this year, it just clicked, I think, for me to really talk about what does it mean for us, and then what does it mean for the Maha Barsha show. And one of the questions I wanted to pose to both of you is, what does inspire inclusion mean to you personally? And then what would it also mean to you as a people manager? Because I know for both of you, your day jobs, you're a people manager. And I personally think that inspire inclusion would mean something very different in those two perspectives. Bring it to myself, inspire inclusion. I think really doing the show with you guys, and also doing all about data with Barsha back then, was really creating that platform so that we can bring out that awareness of what's possible out there.
Yeah, I
But for
mean, this is
personal,
an amazing thing. Juggling a baby who's awake, trying to sleep or not, and do this is pretty awesome. Like, pretty awesome.
yeah, but I think, for us three working moms, women of color, and we're in different parts of the world, um, it could mean so many different things. And also, for us, what does that expectation is? How do we inspire others, or how do we expect others to inspire us, right? So what does it mean to both of you?
I think when I think of inclusion, I think what we did, Jean and I did with All About Data, and what we're doing right now. I think even though we met on, Jean and I were working in the same company, and you came in as a guest for that, and then we met through career and work. But I think it's been a personal journey, right? Because it's been pushing myself out there, and growing. So that's me. And this the theme of inspire inclusion has two parts of it, right? Like, one is, how do we inspire others to be acceptable of women and their contribution, and forge a better world. The other part is when women themselves feel included. And I think this is a very good example of we making room for ourselves, or even though we haven't seen other people do things like this, it's like, hey, no, we're gonna create a space, we're gonna do this. Um and and that means, me as a mom showing up for my son, right? Like, me as a person coming from Nepal, showing up for my relatives and my cousins, and like, other people looking at me going, wow, that's very fulfilling on a personal level, just elevating and 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 gathering that courage to push, right? That's for me personally. Professionally, as a people manager, it's it's like, I'm not just preaching. If I if I make a request of my team, or if I share a vision with them, there's always a why. And there's a sense, like people relate to you if you're authentic. And if this is my authentic way of expression, and I share something with them in a work context, and I'm asking them to make themselves visible, push the boundaries for themselves, and here I am being nervous doing that, it's like I am walking, or I'm trying to walk the talk. I'm not talk. And I've always worked with really well. I've always been inspired by leaders who walk the talk because I follow them. And so I think there is that inclusion, like inspiring other people to include women, but also how am I including myself in places that I think I belong? And
Mhm.
then how do I inspire and encourage my team to then step up and elevate as well? So that was a long-winded way, but over to you, Maha.
Now, inclusion is something. There's a dictionary meaning for inclusion, and then there's us who talk about what inclusion means. What you said is so beautiful, right? Is how do you inspire others by stepping into some uncomfortable places yourself? How do you make yourself be included in conversations where you believe you belong, and then in doing so you stand as an inspiration to the others to do so, right? Because this is not inclusion, it's inspiring inclusion, which is, it's a little bit more than just inclusion, right? um, I know you asked about the work environment, Ginny, but I'll tell you something that happened to me many many years ago. My I go to a Hindu Sunday school, right? I teach at a Hindu Sunday school. So my first year, my daughter was 5 years old, and she's like, she attended. It was her first year at Sunday school, and she was like always very excited about it. And then my son was just baby, like a baby born, like he was just a baby, infant's like 2 years, 2 months older, like. And she suddenly comes up and says, one of the other teachers came and said, Maha, you know what? Harita said that she wanted you to teach. And I said, okay. I have never taught little kids, and never taught first, like little kids, even less so. And I said, what inspired her to? She's like, I don't know, but she thinks that she wants you to be a teacher. So I said, okay, Sunday mornings, I'll go try and do it because she wants it to. She thinks it'll be cool. And I remember my first Sunday school class, like there were 23 little ones, like 6 year olds or 7 year olds, like all of them looking at you. And you're like this, you're looking at me, I'm terrified. I'm terrified because I don't know what to tell them to keep their attention. And I had a co-teacher who was a professor at MIT sitting with me, and we both looking at each other and going, what are we going to tell these 23-year-olds, right? I mean, 23 6-year-olds. Anyway, we got along with it. We did our first class, and it was good because we had a text and we were following some sort of a curriculum, so it was good. And as I went through this, we started realizing that there were always a bunch of kids that would always speak up. I have an answer. And then there'll always be a bunch that would just be fiddling with their hands, and they'll be looking elsewhere except meet your eyes. And they would just be, and they would even, their body language would be up, but they would not say anything, and they'd retreat back again. I observed this, and then a couple of classes later, it was very easy to pick on the child that is always putting his or her hand up. And then just a bunch of kids that were like, that I knew had something to say. So I started making it a very conscious effort to start asking them and say, thank you so much. What about you? Do you have anything to say? And they'd be like, mm-hmm. They wouldn't even open their mouth. They'd be like, nod their head and say no. But after one or two proddings, and maybe not pushing, but prodding, just like encouragement, then they started opening up. And then before you knew it, all of these kids that were quiet and they were fiddling with their hands just perked up and started paying attention, and they wanted something to say. By the time the year was done, my co-teacher and myself had all the 23 kids vying for attention, vying for being part of, because they had something to say. Now, it really, I was an individual contributor at the time, but I really have that image in my head. It doesn't go away. It's like if I always picked on the children that had their hand up and volunteered, and I never paid any attention to the others that did not, there'd been another set of 10 children who've never have gained the courage to put their hand up and be part of a conversation, to share something that they had to say, however little that may be. It was just a very
Yeah.
for me, that's what inclusion means to me, is to give opportunity to someone that maybe doesn't have the courage to put their hand up and say, hey, I have something to say.
Yeah.
Maybe to encourage them to be part of
That
conversation.
is so powerful, Maha.
Yeah,
Like,
that is
I mean,
great.
that is
We don't
amazing.
really think about that. I think, I guess when you think of International Women's Day, you're thinking, oh, okay, where we are now in our careers, whatever age we are. But inclusion really happens when we're young too. It's giving those getting those opportunities. That's
Absolutely.
amazing, Baha.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
story.
And then, and but then we can take that in our adulthood, in our professional worlds as well, because as leaders, we see people who have the potential, but they're quiet because, it could be any sort of, you know, factor that's getting them to hold themselves back, but it's a conscious effort. And to that, leaders don't need titles, right? You can be a manager and you can be a leader, but and I have the perfect example here. Ginny, she's an individual contributor, but she's a leader in that space, right? Like, she was the one who pushed me, not just prodded me, but pushed me to use my voice in all about data, and she made me feel comfortable. I had never done content creation. She's been the, sounding board behind every single thing. The light comment that you made, Maha, there was
Mhm.
so many, like, hair comment, like this angle, all of that. I've been through it all.
It's all important, right? It's all these little details that bring it together.
But having somebody to kind of say, no, 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 what you created is awesome, and giving you that confidence that you have a voice and you can use it and it has value and
Yeah.
it will cause, changes and the effect that you need. So I wanted to acknowledge Ginny for being such a fantastic leader, because this wouldn't have been possible. Like, all about data wouldn't have been possible. This wouldn't have been possible. Maybe it would have been possible in a very different way, but not right now. What is happening right now wouldn't have been
Oh.
possible. So amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys are great people to work with. That's why, we can bring it together, right? So
Yes.
that's
This
that's
nice
the
mutual
inclusion.
admiration club.
It's so good. It's so good.
Flowers for everybody,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
but I
that's
think
it.
it's great.
We all need to acknowledge what we bring to the table. I think it's also about inclusion, right? Like, I remember my coach tell me this all the time. So, Maha, what happens when somebody gives you a compliment? I'm like, yeah, no, it's my team. She says, stop. Number one thing you have to do is acknowledge it. Say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I accept
That's
that
so true.
compliment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
then and then say, and also my team, right? So
Yeah.
there's no harm in acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Never shy away from the fact that you accept the compliment and sentiment that it was offered to you.
Yeah.
um,
While
so
we're on the roll with acknowledgement, Maha, you also, like, we only worked for a few years, and we invited as a guest, but the fact that you reached out to me with a vision, with something that you were passionate about, and just worked out well that we both kind of share the same passion, but you kind of you reached out with an olive branch, and we are kind of like, so it's amazing. And you're very, you're a few levels senior to me. Like, you could do it with anyone, but you're like, oh, no, 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 here's Basha, and I'll reach out to her, and so it's been fantastic. Like, I feel really grateful that you reached out to me, and then this happened, right? And obviously Jeannie's partnership, but this is so great.
I
Thank you.
remember the first conversation. Thank you. I remember the first conversation we had when we first met at the kickoff ages ago, and you were very vulnerable, and you were very open and honest about where you saw yourself and things go, and everything. And to see you then on All About Data after a long time after that was like inspiring to me, to see how far you have come, and made your presence known, not just in the company you're in, but also in the community, in the domain that you're in. And that just, there was no, at that point, there's no second thought about it at all. And the first person that came to mind was like, I know who I'm going to go to this one with and see if it's even viable.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Thank you.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you about something. Um, so I know this is International Women's Day, and there's a theme of inspiring inclusion. But I'm also just a little bit concerned. I would say we're concerned. I'm just thinking about this niggling thing in the back of my mind that there's also a little bit of I wouldn't say pushback, but some sort of thought process around DEI is too difficult. Um, it's gone from, hey, we need to do this as a corporate responsibility, to it becoming a metric, to now becoming a burden. It's like it's swung. I feel like it's swinging from what it was original intent to be, and became some sort of a force. It's something that people were forced to do, and now they are pushing back on it enough to
Mhm.
swing the pendulum over to the other side. Are you seeing and or hearing anything about it, or where do you see that, like, in
Yeah,
other people?
That's very
that's a
interesting.
really good question, right? Oh, you go, Ginny. Do you want to?
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's interesting because it's sort of the first time I'm really hearing that concern. Maybe it's because I'm the part of the world I'm in. I'm based in Hong Kong, um, but it's inclusion is always something. It is a corporate responsibility, but at the end of the day, it also comes down to the individual. I think. Um, Going back to how do you create opportunities, right? A lot of it is your sponsors. How who's looking out for you? Who's looking out for you to be aware of different opportunities so that you're included, or giving you a seat at a table to be part of that conversation. I think it really depends on individual managers, sponsors. Again, it doesn't have to be a manager. It could be a peer or yeah. So I feel like, yeah, corporate responsibility from a business standpoint definitely is important, but it also um, I think it plays a bigger part in terms of who you're surrounding yourself with.
Hmm.
That's my take on it. So
I'm
Yeah,
glad you're not seeing anything.
I think that's a fantastic question, Maha. Right? I agree with Ginny, and on top of that, I think there is a little bit of, we talk about unconscious bias, this, conscious effort. So this whole idea of DI and how it's difficult, I have seen it. Like, it's like, you want to create a diverse pool of candidates in your teams, all of that, and it's difficult to find um, diverse candidates. And diverse, I don't mean a brown female candidate. No, it's like the diversity in that talent pool is not as much. And this is I'm from Nepal. I've seen that there. I work in Australia. I've worked here for you know 13, 14 years, and it's very similar here as well. It needs conscious effort, but it also, I think there's two paths to it. Why is it difficult? Because not a lot of people that you have in the talent pool. But it's also, it needs certain kind of leadership and awareness. Like, you got to know that if there's a problem, and you got to take active steps to to make an effort to change that if you want to change it. So I think it needs a certain level of commitment, and almost a courage. If you if you are if you're committed to that cause, you gotta forge the path, and you gotta bring other people with you. But you gotta a leader gotta, they've gotta understand that there's a problem. If you can't, if there's no acceptance, there's no acknowledgement, then you can't. Then it just seems like, oh, this is like, let's do this to celebrate this and that. But no, what are you doing to change that? I think everybody needs to see themselves as a cause to the change.
Yeah,
It takes senior leadership, I think, if we're talking about companies or people with influence, to actually take the charge and bring other people along.
yeah,
Eh, because without that conscious effort, and people can still label it as something that, oh, it's just something nice to do, or no, no, And we've seen, Maha, in your role, for example, in your roles for the last so many years, you would have seen how a team with very similar individuals versus a team with diverse,
Hmm.
background and experience, how do they compare to each other, right?
Yep.
So there's definitely a lot of work to be done, and there's definitely some level of mindset where it's a nice thing to have, but if we find the right candidate, we'll just like, no, 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 what, you find the right candidate, but maybe put in a little bit of effort. And like your example earlier, talk to people who don't put their hand up, go ask them, be curious, right? Be having that curiosity. Sometimes people do need a little bit of prodding, especially people from minority background, it, and when we talk about equity as well, which was I think last year's theme. But that, just because it was last year's themes doesn't mean we kind of,
That's it.
right?
It's done. It's a 2023 thing. Equity is no longer needed for 2024.
That's the thing. It's
It's
not a
solved.
it's not a one
It's
day
move
a
on.
year thing. Like you kind of have to step up and elevate and add those things to
This is
your.
plus, plus, plus.
Yeah,
Yeah, equity
exactly.
plus.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very cool, very cool. All right, good to hear that that is not something that there's a bit of a the word I the term I heard used was a little bit of a backlash
Mm.
against DEI. There's now lots of jokes around around having to listen to mandatory videos and then
Oh,
there's the sequential jokes about it and everything. It's no joking, it's no laughing matter, but you know there's also a way in which to do it.
yeah.
That
Mm.
I think it requires a lot of thought around organization. Like, how do organizations approach it? How do they design awareness? How do they make it part of? How do they make everybody take ownership of it as opposed to having
Correct.
this thrust upon them as a here's a list of all the trainings you need to do along with these two check mark it and then
That
you're
does
done.
nothing, right? That does nothing to how you interact in your
Yeah.
day to day. So and it touches on that culture aspect now, and it's
Mhm.
still the responsibility for everyone, but especially the leaders, because people are looking up to leaders like me. I'm always looking up to the leaders
Mhm.
above me because they are who inspire me. They're like, oh, maybe I want to be that as the next step in my career. Maybe I want to copy that because they do so well with their team or their ecosystem or anything, right? So it's a very conscious effort, but people need to recognize the power that they have
Yeah.
and the power in their voice and how they communicate about the cause, because you can you can impact somebody's thinking and influence them a certain way when you are at a certain level and you're consciously saying that message, and
Yeah.
that applies to anything, right?
That applies to anything. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. We could
Yeah,
talk. We could talk for another hour on this particular
forever.
topic.
For sure.
Exactly.
This is
Well,
so
we
much.
already talked a little bit before this as well. So,
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah.
So indeed. So.
So one of the things, we one of the things, in sticking to the theme of the Maha Barsha show, we were always like, hey, what's key takeaway? What can people, when they listen to us, what are the few takeaway points from this conversation? Because we don't want to just have it as a conversation, right? What would it be for, like, for all of us? Like, maybe we'll start with Ginny.
for just bringing back key takeaway for
For
International
this
Women's Day
episode, right? Yeah,
for
for
this
this
episode.
episode,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, bringing it back to the theme, right? I think, like I mentioned before, a lot of times it's, how do we know what opportunities there are, and then how do we find a sponsor that can help us get a seat at the table, or um, you know again, surrounding yourself with people that can be your sounding board, or give you that extra little push to do something you're uncomfortable with. And um, inspiration doesn't always have to be something, come from something that's positive, right? It could be, failure. How do you um, overcome it? But inclusion, I think, is the bigger part. How do we include other people into what we're trying to do, what our causes, or even, um, it doesn't have to be a cause. It's really just hearing different opinions as well. So I think, my takeaway is, um, be a little bit more understanding, compassionate, and hear what other people have to say and see how you can help, and
Yeah.
be open to those opportunities and lending that helping hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Maha?
Yeah, actually, something Ginny said really struck me is that ideas don't have to be big and all positive. That's really powerful.
Mm,
For me, just this conversation that we are having, the show itself. Um, I keep going back to things like if I was just left with the idea in my head, we wouldn't be here.
yeah.
We wouldn't be having this conversation and maybe putting it out there again, once again, and sharing it with everybody.
With
Uh,
good lighting this time.
with better lighting, yes. But the fact that the fact that you can create something good. I hope, maybe perhaps amazing in the future, but something good, and you always don't need sponsorship. You just need
Yes.
to reach out. You just need to reach out and bring people that can add value to the conversation. You can make something big, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someday, let's say this becomes a syndicated show. I'm just kidding. Maybe not, right?
Maybe
But
manifestation. Yeah.
right, and if it does, everything starts somewhere small. But
Mm.
bringing in the right people together and creating something. So I feel empowered. I feel like this could empower other people thinking about ideas, is to say, I don't need someone at the senior most level within an organization to help me bring an idea to fruition. I just need to bring in people that are good at what I need to make this successful, and together we can make
Absolutely.
some things happen. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like this. Uh, it's my takeaway for today is that
Yeah.
is don't always look for that sponsor or that. Just look for collaborators, good
Yes.
collaborators, people that also share your sort of passion for doing things, and then boom, magic happens. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
take.
Oh my God. Absolutely. I think I agree with both what Ginny said and what you added on to that as well. I think um, start where you are.
Mm,
Start with what you like. Big. Dream big, and take actions around what you want to do, and to make that happen. I think speak to people who are not
mm,
like, right? Like Ginny from marketing, me from pre-sales, we had one chat, and we got all about data going. That's only one chat, and we were sold, right? And it was very lucky that we got introduced. But when I reached out to you, Maha, you came in, and then from that, this happened, right? So it's like being authentic, dreaming big, you having a little bit of an idea. It doesn't need to be clear, but be able to express that with people you mingle. Like for people watching this show, you could, even if you are in your IT department, your pre-sales department, your marketing, like ask somebody else from support team, for example, for a cup of coffee. Somebody else, like, and then just get to know them, because you never know. Like you will click with different people on different levels, and then how you get to collaborate is however that happens. It's just
yeah,
magic. It
yeah,
happens.
it
But you
happens.
got to be curious. You got to be putting a little bit of an effort to get to know people who you wouldn't really generally connect with, or go
Yeah,
out of your way to connect with, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love the
Inclusion,
two
inspiring.
key words, I think: empowerment and collaboration. Those
Yes.
are like really big ones. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
look at what it's come with us, right?
Gosh, this is like, this feels dreamlike, right? Like from when we first started conversation, one way, two way, three way, all of last year, and then Abby coming in doing her magic with the graphics and everything. It's like, it's amazing. And yeah, empowerment and collaboration, and it's like it's a circle of empowerment, right? Everybody is looking out for each other, and then we're collaborating, you know like, yeah, it's
That
amazing.
inspires inclusion.
Yes. And we're including ourselves, like you said, Ma. You don't need something to be already established. you create new things, and that's how we create a seat at the table. It's not just for women, whoever, whatever seat that is, whatever table that is,
Yeah.
we can step up and in our own way, and it's not going to happen overnight. And
Yeah.
Ginny, you touched on a really good point. It's not the success always that gives you empowerment and inspiration. It's adversities, because we fail and we pick ourselves up and we learn something, and that's something that we can
Yeah.
give to others, as three of us and our guests in future from the show as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This was awesome. It was a great conversation. I loved it.
Yes. Yes. Oh well, I hope our audience enjoys this. We would love to get your feedback, see what you could relate with. Let us know, and then they'll look out for more episodes. And thank you, Ginny. Thank
Thank you,
you for
Julie.
being in front of the camera for the first time. We love it. We love
Not
it.
just
More
behind
to
the
come, right?
camera. Yeah.
More to come. More to come.
More to come.
More to
Awesome.
come.
Thank you,
Thank you all.
ladies.